Hello, we are back here with Deborah Bruce. We had such positive feedback from our weekly update last week, and so we asked Deborah Bruce if she would come back and just go over a few more things with us. And so we thank you for coming back.
Great to be here.
She's so nice. We have exhausted her this week, so we appreciate you being here. Okay, just a few questions that have come in, and you are really the expert to answer these.
Well, thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Fire away.
All right. Homeoenergetics. Mm-hmm. What is the ultimate emotions frequency? What does that mean?
The ultimate emotions frequency, that remedy was one that Lauren developed so that it would cover the entire scope of human emotion, similar to the Bach flowers. And so that particular remedy has the frequency fingerprint, the blueprint frequency of all 38 emotions. And so it's really beneficial because when you take it, the brain can pick from almost like a restaurant menu, it can pick from the different frequencies that are in that remedy and apply it to whatever it is that you need for the day.
Wow.
So it's just a fantastic frequency profile that can be used each day as often as needed, and just benefits the emotions as a whole.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So why would someone who does not take a recreational drug have a recreational drug show up on their reports? And in that same vein, what about, I've seen on my own reports scorpion and tarantula, and I've never been bitten by either of those. Why would that show up on reports?
This is really a fascinating question, and when we first came out with the reports, I actually dug into this and did some research because a lot of people that I was working on were coming up with the same question. And in the research, it was fascinating because it turns out that the pesticide industry for spraying crops actually uses the synthetic form of a lot of venoms to spray crops because it's so effective against insects. Okay, so in my research, for example, you might come up under vinegaroon. Okay,
yes.
And I was like, that's a scorpion from Costa Rica, and it doesn't even sting people. It sprays a venom. Okay, and then you've got the tarantula and the brown recluse spider and whatever. And so many people were saying, I've never come in contact with these. What is this? But then it started making sense because in the same report, you may come up for pesticides, okay? So what was happening was there was a correlation between the two lists, and it became obvious that what I started telling them was you may not have had a personal experience with that particular insect. However, you're eating the synthetic venom of it when you're eating foods that have been sprayed with pesticides. So even if somebody's gone organic for a number of years, they still could have cellular memory of the fact that they ingested those pesticides earlier. And so the brain can still identify with the blueprint frequency that's in the scanner that they have the synthetic venom from that particular item.
Wow. What would you say about recreational drugs?
That's a different one. That's one where the brain, again, doesn't look at the word drug and say, it doesn't identify with a word. It identifies with the blueprint frequency that's in the scanner. So let's say that you were at a concert 6 years ago, and the person next to you is smoking pot.
Yeah.
You breathe it in, you smell it, the brain registers the frequency, and then you do your scan, and it recognizes the blueprint frequency for that drug that's in the scanner is in your system. Well, it's going to say that you ingested a recreational drug, even though you personally didn't experience it. It also could be that you have used over-the-counter Sudafed, Benadryl, different things that anymore, if you notice, you can't get them in large quantities.
Yes.
You have to show a license or whatever because they're used to make recreational drugs.
Right.
So even just the ingestion of those can lead it to where your brain recognizes Benadryl frequency, you had it, and that frequency registers for a recreational drug.
Makes so much sense.
It's gonna say, you've experienced that, even if you've never actually used recreational drugs.
So interesting.
Yep.
Okay, another question that has come up a few times. Why would a scan show red for a uterus when somebody had a hysterectomy years before?
That goes back to the body still has having something out like that doesn't remove the chakras or the electrical highways of the meridians. So it's still going to register with the scan. The body's electric. It's still going to register that area even if it's been removed. If you think back, we've heard stories about somebody that's had an amputation, and even though they have an amputation, they still sense itching or feeling where the limb is missing. That's the field electric that the body still has. So that would apply in the case of a uterus or a gallbladder or whatever having been removed.
Okay. All right, last question.
Okay.
What would you say to someone who has some health issues, gets an AO scanner, uses it for a while, and then just says, you know what, this isn't working. It's not doing anything for me. I feel defeated. What should I do?
That's a really good question. And I think it's one that people have commonly felt. Thinking about it, what I would say is that your device is educational. And so it's going to be educating you about different things that you need to do in the body. Now, I know myself, I can be educated that I am dehydrated by my device. But if I don't drink the water during the day, I don't expect to feel better or see an improvement in my scan because it's going to keep educating me about what I'm still not doing. So I think that sometimes we need to take an honest look at what we are or aren't doing about what we see when we use our scanner. It could be exercise, it could be drinking more water, it could be eliminating certain foods, any number of things that it could be. I'll tell you something else that would help. I had a client come in that I had been working on for a period of time, and she was getting fairly regularly scanned. And she came in one day and expressed that same exact emotion that I've been getting scanned. I don't feel like I've made any progress. I'm feeling defeated. This just doesn't work for me. And on the spur of the moment, I pulled out her file and I flipped back to when I first started working with her. And I said to her, so are you still having that awful pain in your knee? I'm sorry that it hasn't gone away. I know that that was a real concern for you. And I went through a number of things that she had talked about. And she sat there and she went, I don't have that pain in my knee anymore. So we went one by one on the things that she came in for originally. Quite a few of them had disappeared. And it was really cool because she came to her own conclusion that sometimes when you have complaints and they disappear, you don't notice it as much as the things that you're still suffering from. That seems to be human nature. So I encourage anybody that has a scanner, if you're the type that enjoys doing it, to do some journaling. Just, it doesn't have to be every day. Maybe once a week, just note the things that you feel are bothering you and then work on the education that you get from your scanner during the week. And then every once in a while, look back a few months and you might be surprised by how many things that you see that have actually dropped off the list, but we still focus on the areas that are still bothering us. It's just human nature.
That makes me think about when people write reviews on a restaurant or something and you see some good ones, but usually you see a lot of, or a good amount of negative. And I think that people will go to the effort to say what they were upset about.
Right.
And instead of if they were extremely happy, you kind of hear from the naysayers more than you hear from the contented. And so that's kind of what that reminded me of is you forget when you're feeling better, you forget how you used to feel.
Where you came from.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And the other thing is sometimes, I know I have to do this with myself, sometimes you have to get tough with yourself. And that goes back to one of those old sayings that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So sometimes we're our own worst enemy that way. We're being led in a direction by our scanner constantly, but some of the things that we see that we're supposed to do aren't our favorite thing to do, so we just kind of don't pay attention to that, when actually sometimes we do have to get a little bit tougher with ourselves and implement what we're being educated on in order to see more of those positive changes.
There's no magic pill.
No.
Aw, all right.
Yeah, the scanner doesn't go.
Darn it.
Nope.
Darn it. Well, thank you as always. A wealth of information. We appreciate you, and
Okay.
it's good to have you here this week.
Great to be here.